Welcome back to the update. I'm Tiffany.
I'm Daniel.
And I'm Jai. Boy, do we have a great show lined up for you today. It's Wellness Wednesday, so we're sharing some of our favorite practices to look good, feel good, and do good. Be sure to stick around until the end of today's broadcast for all of that greatness.
That is right. We have an awesome show for you today and are excited you're here. We're your next generation news network informing you of what's relevant and important in your world. Today we'll catch up on several of the ongoing stories we've been covering across the globe, but we'll also be sharing some of the more uplifting sides of these stories. Then we'll of course bring it back home for the Arizona State News. This is the update. Thanks again for being with us here today. Let's start off the show the only way we can. It's the Haps with the Maps. We begin our journey around the world today by revisiting relations between Russia and Ukraine. Now, this has been most widely shared news as of late due to the global impact. Now, allegedly, Russia is stating that they believe Ukraine has plans of planting a dirty bomb on its own soil. Now, a dirty bomb is an explosive that upon detonation spreads radioactive material. Russia is apparently planning to share this allegation at the UN Security Council. We still are yet to be shown any proof of the allegation. Now, Reuters reportedly saw Russian Ambassador Vasily's letter to the Council, which was urging Western nations to exert their influence on Kiev and prevent an attack of nuclear terrorism. The United States and their Western allies are, at least up until now, not believing the Russian allegations, calling them transparently false. We don't make it our job to editorialize here on the update, but we just want to send our deepest wishes of safety and togetherness and peace for all those affected. As a matter of fact, let's go to Jai, who's going to be talking about the potential blowback and lead us sending in peace and love all over the globe. Jai?
Thank you, Tiff. And welcome everyone to this Wellness Wednesday, this beautiful, beautiful day. You know what, folks? Let's just take a minute first. It's pretty much the top of the broadcast. Let's take a minute and let's slow down the wheels before we start driving too deep into this stuff. It's amazing how relaxed we can feel and how much smaller of a deal everything is when we've just taken a few moments to just collect ourselves, let the mind, body, and spirit synergize first. Why? Well, I might have a good guess. The brain has these information messengers called neurons, right? So here's what I figured. If neurons go from the brain to the rest of the nervous system, and the nervous system guides all of our activities, moods, growth, the ability to grow, you see where I'm going with this? What if we're talking about the car? What if we're operating with a dirty air filter? How clearly can the rest of the engine understand the life force if the messenger is sending dirty energy? So, if that resonates, I highly encourage you to follow along just with this quick breathing style. And, maybe if it works for you, consider adding it to your morning routine. But only if you feel better, genuinely. So the breathing style here is just to take a very small amount of fresh life force or air in and use that to expel more of the stuff the body wants gone. It's kind of like eating an apple with peanut butter. The apple's the life force or breath, and then the extra oomph we add to that new air acts like the peanut butter or fibrous protein, grabbing more stuff that needs to go on its way out. And we're sending all this out through the solar plexus, syncing up the nose and the solar plexus. It goes a little something like this. So you take a little air in, you expand it, and now you just kick it all out through the solar plexus and your nose. So we'll do about 30 of these and just see how you feel. It's essentially clearing the system of all the stuff you don't want in there. So we'll rip about 30 of these real quick. I recommend just close your eyes, let your shoulders down, and then we go. deep breath in. So, how do you feel? If that made you feel at all a little bit uneasy, just keep your eyes relaxed and catch your breath. Any amount of time breathing deeply will provide benefit. Okay, but I hope that brought you into a little bit more of a relaxed place. Now let's pivot. What did America say regarding these new Russian allegations of Ukraine's plan to set off a dirty bomb in their own backyard? Well, State Department spokesman Ned Price spoke with reporters earlier in the week. He stated that the United States, France, and Britain accused Moscow of using dirty bomb allegations to justify escalating the war. It would certainly be another example of Russian President Vladimir Putin's brutality if he were to use a so-called dirty bomb. There would be consequences for Russia. Now, Associated Press reports that an unnamed Russian state media official made the unsupported claim that Ukraine was preparing the alleged weapon in Kiev and, probably going to mess this one up, Dnipropetrovsk, which caused the United Nations to do their due diligence. They decided to send the UN nuclear watchdog, otherwise known as the International Atomic Energy Agency, to visit these two alleged sites to research if these claims have any truth. Now, IAEA Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi said they already inspected one of these locations a month ago and said no declared nuclear activities or materials were found there. So that would seem like good news, but I guess you got me there on the word choice. No news is good news or bad news. It just is. But if Mariano Grossi speaketh the truth, then that will hopefully bring us closer to peace. We'll be watching the updates and keep you in the know with this international relations story for sure. Speaking of foreign relations, you know what I love seeing? When leaders don't forget that we're all the same, that we're all in the same race, the human race. After the events there the last few years, it's become more evident than ever that we need each other. If you're not there, I completely understand, but even you would probably say at a minimum that it's a lot easier in this life when you have allies, right? Friends? That said, Germany and the EU hosted a conference to, get this, to address reconstructing, you guessed it, Ukraine. The new Marshall Plan, of course, does not negate the approximately $9 billion the EU pledged to aid Ukraine, $1 billion of which is reportedly already in Ukraine's hands now. You may remember the Marshall Plan as the American initiative post-World War II era that basically rebuilt Western Europe. And it's quite needed now, as the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said, the World Bank estimates the damages in Ukraine at a whopping 350 billion euros. Wow. Apparently, Ukraine may receive aid in the billions every single month, however, in 2023 to help them get through the harsh winter and repay the loans. So that would be a godsend. Now, Ukrainian President Zelensky says Russian strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure are understandably going to make winter that much tougher. But thanks to the UN and the EU, Ukraine will seemingly be okay. Now, let's go to Daniel, who's going to show us the big picture of the world status with respect to Russia and Ukraine. Daniel?
Thank you, Jai, and thanks for that relaxation you gave us, too. Now let's do a quick recap of a few of the recent happenings in the Russia-Ukraine world situation. So Russia begins bombing Ukraine, right? Now amidst this conflict, Russia also has some pretty challenging relationships with most of the world. Then Ukraine has a conference regarding the Crimean Peninsula because Russia illegally annexed it back in 2014. At this conference, United States Speaker of House Nancy Pelosi says Iran is making a big mistake in supplying Russia with drones. Now keep in mind, Tehran is denying these allegations, but the United States and the UN speak their truth or perception, and it's clearly making a stand. Historically, the United States only makes public statements like this if they have sufficient evidence or want to gauge the reaction. Now get this. Britain's defense ministry reports that a quarter of Russia's helicopter fleet, mostly made up of the Ka-52 Hokum, has been downed by Ukraine's air defense systems. The Ka-52 Hokum is one of the few options offering nearby support for troops. And we all know what happens if you can't get the necessary items to your troops. Armies march on their stomachs, and in times of war, food is just the tip of the iceberg. And you know we'll keep you updated. We're pulling for peace, no doubt. So why did the chicken cross the road? To get out of Russia. And maybe the most impactful news to come out of this situation. Yes, comrade, I'm sad to report that a bucket of chicken will no longer be the same bucket of chicken in Russia. Yes, folks, I know this is a major shock. We've been fielding the tweets all day. Yum Brands owned KFC will sell Russian KFC restaurants, operating systems, and master franchise rights, including the network of KFC franchise restaurants, to the Russian firm Smart Service. Well, maybe chicken and vodka aren't the best combination, right? Maybe Putin just didn't want to get his hands dirty, you know, because chicken grease or something, I don't know, man. Anyways, after the break, we'll continue our journey through the world. We'll be back.
Welcome back to the update on the HYFN TV network. And remember, you can always catch us on your phone at hyfntv.com or on your Roku device by downloading our channel HYFN TV. After you're on the Roku channel or the website, choose On Demand in the drop-down and rewatch all of your favorite segments for free at your fingertips on demand at hyfntv.com. Now, moving over, let's head over across the pond for what the update is on what was a vacant Prime Minister position. It is now official since we last reported on Tuesday. Rishi Sunak became Britain's third Prime Minister just this year. Sunak, Britain's first leader of color and the youngest leader of Britain in over 200 years, acknowledges the uphill challenge he faces and even paid tribute to his predecessor, Liz Truss, in a speech following the visit to Buckingham Palace, where it is custom, the king invited him as it is tradition to form a government. Sunak stated, "I fully appreciate how hard things are, and I understand too that I have work to do to restore trust after all that has happened. And all I can say is that I am not daunted." First up in Sunak's duties is to continue assembling his cabinet, which he desires to be competent enough to erase the recent memories and U-turns the Brits have been dealing with lately. And he might want to do that quickly as the budget will be due end of the month. We wish Prime Minister Sunak all the best as he jumps into action. Now moving over to Egypt, according to the Associated Press, peace talks have begun to resolve the conflict in Ethiopia. The fighting has gone on for about 2 years and has killed probably hundreds of thousands of people. And according to a South African government spokesperson, the South African President Vincent Magwena shared that the African Union-led talks that started Tuesday are expected to continue until Sunday. He went on to say that such talks are in line with South Africa's foreign policy objectives of a secure and conflict-free continent. We wish the folks in the Tigray region and those making these decisions all the peace in the world. And you can always rely on us here on the update to keep you informed. Now let's go to Daniel for more news in Africa. Daniel?
Thanks, Tiff. Now, in nearby Sudan, which had about 5 years of civil war and ongoing violence, government officials say somewhere in the ballpark of 2 million residents have been affected by flooding, with a population of roughly 12 million people. Information Minister Michael McCuey-Luth said that 8 out of the 10 states are currently flooded and over 2 million people are internally displaced and have lost their livelihoods. The United Nations Humanitarian Agency is reportedly researching strategies to assist. On to neighboring countries, Burundi and Rwanda, after shutting down the border amidst the COVID-19 justifications, Burundi has reopened the Rwanda border, and that comes... lost the story there for a second. But there is peace happening between that border, between Rwanda and Burundi. Combine the two there. But it's nice to see the peace happening, man. We got to see more of that around the world, and in Russia too. Let's go back to Tiff.
Thank you, Daniel. So we've been keeping you updated on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. One of its effects is the supply of natural gas to the rest of the world. Associated Press reports that the European Union relied on Russia for about 40% of its natural gas consumption, which of course has gone bye-bye thanks to the sanctions on Russia's energy sector following the invasion of Ukraine. Now, natural gas prices have since been increasing, and everyone is curious what to expect. The Coalition of Gas Exporting Countries Forum met in Cairo earlier this week to strategize, and its Secretary General Mohamed Hamel of Algeria said that, "We believe this market tightness will continue to be with us until probably 2025 or 2026. when the new projects that are being developed will come on stream. Now this comes just weeks after OPEC's decision to cut production by some 2 million barrels a day. It is Wellness Wednesday after all, so may not be a bad idea to take that huffy on down to the local co-op and fill up them tires. Maybe check out a nice light for your seat for those late night supply runs. Just kidding. Well, we'll see. But whatever happens, we'll of course keep you updated. Now for some breaking news. You probably remember we recently reported that Arizona Governor Doug Ducey's order to install double-stacked shipping containers along the Yuma border met strong opposition as the federal government sent a letter mandating their removal. Well, the last time we reported on this story, we informed you that he was not planning to listen to their order. And now he has absolutely affirmed his position as he had more shipping containers placed in the openings just earlier this week. Ducey asked a judge to allow over 100 of these double-stacked shipping containers to sit along the Yuma border with barbed wire atop them, and we will update you as soon as we know what's happening. Wow, maybe we're going back to the Wild West days, eh? All we can say right now is the plot thickens. We're going to take a short break, back in a jiff for This Day in History. And we are back. Now, I might have been born on a Tuesday, but it wasn't yesterday. It's time for our favorite history lesson from our favorite Constitution writing looking dude, Daniel. He's got This Day in History. Let's go.
Heary, it is time for This Day in History. Now we'd like to thank Britannica for being so reliable and providing these cool events that have happened in our history. Now first up, in 1795. Now, this is apparently when the National Convention, an assembly that governed France during what many consider the most pivotal 3 years in the French Revolution, was dispersed. The group is mainly remembered for helping overthrow the monarchy and establishing the Republic. Now, in 1813, American and British forces meet at the Battle of Chattanooga. I probably butchered that name, but it was during the War of 1812, which would have been more appropriately named the War of 1812 till most likely Valentine's Day 1815. It didn't get that name. From what we can tell, the British had agreed to allow American ships to do what they needed to do, you know, for like importing and exporting the old-fashioned way. It was the real UPS over the ocean. Unlikely, but potentially safe. Now, in 1825, the Erie Canal, considered by many to be the engineering marvel of the 19th century, 363 miles, the government called it too ambitious, but immigration from Ireland helped fuel the workforce. Wages were about $12 a month. Some were even paid in whiskey, but they preserved and completed the project. Now, another massive development during this project was the one move from using ratchets to pull out tree stumps to mathematician Nathan Roberts' invention, a giant stump remover powered by a team of oxen. Yes, oxen! That helped the team increase their tree stump removal tenfold, and the famous canal has paved the way for New York to become the gateway to the rest of the world. That was really well done. Now, in 1881, one of the most famous gunfights remembered in the Wild West, Wyatt and his siblings, the Earp brothers, had their famous gunfight with an outlaw gang led by Ike Clanton in Tombstone, Arizona. That's right here in our beautiful home state. Now, the fight itself didn't actually take place in the Coral like the name suggests, but it actually took place 6 doors down, according to numerous reports, in a vacant lot next to C.S. Fly's photographic gallery. What a rich story in Arizona's history. Moving forward to 1955, Austria passes a constitutional law of perpetual neutrality. Wow, almost 70 years later. Maybe there are countries who'd like to consider this for today's time as well. Now, in 1958, we moved up into the clouds as the very first American jetliner hit the airways. The Boeing 707 began its travels for Pan American World Airways. Crazy to see how far we've come since then. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. We didn't get to hear that for 3 years when Muhammad Ali was imprisoned after refusing to fight in the Vietnam War. He did return and defeat Jerry Quarry, though. In 1979, South Korean President Park Chung-hee was assassinated. He ruled for 18 years, imposed martial law due to riots, and eventually his supposed friend Kim Jae-kyu, head of the Korean CIA, was put to death for assassinating him. His own friend, man. I'll be back. On this day, 38 years ago. Crazy. Can you believe that? Look at a classic. Arnold right there. The Terminator was released, almost instantly dubbing Arnold an action star and James Cameron a respected director. And with that, we're going to wrap up today's day in history. We'll see you in a few when we bring it home.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for staying with us through the update. It is now time to bring it back home to our lovely Grand Canyon State for the Arizona State News. Now, here on the update and the Arizona State News, we like to keep you in the know on what's happening around you right here in our backyard. No matter how you get our news, whether you're watching this while it's streaming, whether you're going back and checking it out on demand, no matter what, You can rely on us here on the update at HYFN TV to break down the news in Arizona in the most relevant and meaningful way for you, our viewers. Now let's kick it off with an update for the gubernatorial elections. But first, huge props to Deuce Deuce. We know they like them Washington apples up there, but I guess we'll see how them feds like them Arizona apples. Now, starting out in Cochise County, southeastern rural Arizona voted, and it is official. Cochise County will hand count election ballots from the November 8th midterms. Now, you might remember all of the accusations that a previous election's results were not correct. Well, this is how the county plans to counteract these claims. Now, this may not be a foolproof plan, as opposition claims this decision may put the county at risk of litigation. Republican County Attorney Brian McIntyre implored them not to attempt to order this separate hand count, stating such an action would be unlawful and supervisors could be held personally liable if resulting civil suits are filed. Now, many opposing these types of voter certification steps claim it is an attempt to delay certifying results and to lower voter faith in the voting system. Now, we here at HYFN TV ask, does it really matter what's going on or not going on at the polls? Whether or not anyone is attempting to affect the outcome, does that really matter? Wouldn't you still rather get educated on the candidates and go vote so that you know how you feel about different topics of importance? No matter what, this is America, and we will fight for our freedoms, right? So, keeping in mind it's Wellness Wednesday, we believe that a big part of mental wellness is staying steadfast to our personal values and sticking to our guns to ensure we feel our rights are protected. And that's a perfect segue into what we call Constitutional Corner. Tip?
Thank you, Jai. Now, it's been a little bit since we've done Constitutional Corner, so here's a quick intro. It's so easy to lay back and not even know what rights we're afforded, but in these uncertain times, we believe best to be informed so we can all feel the impact of the rights that have been signed into legislation. Now let's start with one near and dear that seems relevant today, voting rights. November 8th elections are right around the corner, so let's review the 3 constitutional amendments known as voter rights. The 15th Amendment, which was passed back in February 26, 1869, gave African American men the right to vote. Then we have the 19th Amendment, which was passed June 4, 1919, which established the women's right to vote. And then finally we have the 26th Amendment, which was passed July 1st, 1971, which gave the voting age for 18. So it's only been about 50 years since the legal age of voting became 18. So it was almost the very end of the Vietnam conflict when that passed. We really enjoy putting it all together so that hopefully it paints a big picture of the history a little more simply. Now let's go to Daniel, who has the story on how Maricopa County is doing its part to try to curb incidents of intimidation or worse at the polls and ballot drop boxes. Daniel?
Now, you guys might remember just last week we shared that Arizona referred a case to the Department of Justice regarding intimidation at ballot drop boxes. It turns out that the end of last week, according to AP, that sheriffs responded to 2 people in masks, heavily armed and wearing bulletproof vests, also showed up at a drop box. There have now been 6 cases of voter intimidation here in Arizona, as well as threatening emails according to the Secretary of State's office. Authorities are having issues figuring out who these intimidators are. Maricopa County Sheriff Paul Penzone stated in a news conference that every day I'm dedicating a considerable amount of resources just to give people confidence that they can cast a vote safely, and that is absurd. We'll keep you posted. We'll see you after the break too for sports and weather.
Welcome back, friends. If you're just joining us, this is the update. Now, be sure to download the HYFN TV channel on your Roku so you can quickly run through our shows, catch all the updates and content from us here on the HYFN TV network on demand. Now, let's kick it over to Tiff for a look at our gorgeous upcoming weather.
Thank you, Jai. Well, guys, our weather has been ridiculous, like ridiculously beautiful. And as per usual, can't decide what to do. Back and forth, back and forth. We're used to this in Arizona. Happens at least once or twice a year. So in true form, this week we'll see the highs go back into the 80s and our lows will approach 60. So make sure you break out the hot chocolate and sweatpants. And this weekend we might get some showers, so maybe a solid weekend to plan a Halloween movie night. That's it for weather. In breaking news, however, authorities are still looking for Oscar Alday, who escaped the Pima County jail. Here's a pic. If you see him, do not approach, but call 911 so they can bring the rain. Rain. That's funny. Okay then, let's go to Daniel for sports.
Alright, now we've probably all seen the impact special teams can have in a game of football. Last night, Arizona State saw what one kicker could do when they put their mind to it. Now, unfortunately, Stanford got the dub, but that doesn't take anything away from the amazing performance that Joshua Carty gave as he nailed 5 field goals. 5 in a game. They helped Stanford get past the Sun Devils 15-14. It was the homecoming game as well. And he also tied the all-time single game record for any Stanford kicker ever. And get this, snapped a 10-game conference losing streak. Awesome, turned it around for his whole team. So obviously we would have loved to see our Sun Devils get the win. But I mean, it goes to show that someone can have honor off the impact someone can have on or off the field when they put their mind to it. That said, I'd like to award our very first Wellness Wednesday award to Joshua Carty for that sensational performance that must have taken tremendous focus, breathwork, patience, practice, mental strength, etc. That goes to show how unbiased we are, giving the credit where it's due, and we award those who deserve it. And for being the impactful player that he was. Great job to Josh. We will look for more for sure. More great things to come. Enjoy that satisfaction. And congrats to everyone from HYFN TV. An interview also awaits you in the future perhaps. I don't know. In other Arizona sports news, however, Northern Arizona University in the news for football is weird but well deserved. RJ Martinez had a great game with 1 rushing touchdown and 1 passing touchdown to lead the Lumberjacks to a 24-10 victory over Idaho State. Martinez finished 23 for 37 for 172 yards with 1 pick six as well. He also rushed for 29 yards. Way to put him to bed, Lumberjacks. Turning around, getting that football program up. And that's going to put another episode of the update to bed. I'm Daniel.
I'm Tiff.
And I'm Jai. Bye for now.